Welcome to Finding Home Healing. I'm your host, Sadie. I believe you were born with a light that guides you to your higher self and most passionate life. But for many of us, it's been extinguished or lost. My mission is to help you find your way back home to that light so that you can love deeper, live in your power, and truly thrive. For those lost or lonely souls, welcome home. Welcome to this episode of Finding Home Healing. We're going to get into a topic that I think will be very fun and exciting for those of you who are personal development junkies and really anyone who is out there looking to improve their life. This means in the context of relationships, career, and your self-awareness. There's a secret that I and many other people know, even dating as far back as the Roman and Greek Empire, that understand and know to live a better life. Can you guess what it is? Let's dive in and find out. Okay, ready? Drum roll. To know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. That's a famous quote by Socrates. If you haven't heard of him, he is quite famous. And this concept of knowing thyself is actually just a little bit of a history lesson for a second. It is inscribed on the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. It's as early as the 5th century BC, but we're not exactly sure of the location and date of the inscription. Those are unknown. However, this concept and this idea of knowing thyself is very, very well known and has been a theme throughout all of our history and culture. I'd like to just share a couple other quotes from people that we admire, one including Aristotle. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. It's very similar to Socrates. Also, Lao Tzu. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. That's a good one. I really like that one. This last one is from Benjamin Franklin. There are 3 things extremely hard: steal, a diamond, and to know oneself. Now, yes, it is very difficult and it is hard. It is a task. But knowing thyself is something that I believe, and I'm sure a lot of you personal development junkies also would agree with me, that it is the catalyst to having a better life. It really is. There are a lot of things in this world that we will never understand, a lot of things in this world that we will never have the answers to, even though we may strive and we may search endlessly. But who we are is something that we can uncover. We can get more and more intimate with ourselves. We can become experts on who we are, how we are, why we are the way that we are. And that is really the fun and the journey of life. It is a driving force and a motivator of life for us to know ourselves and to understand ourselves. When we get lost in the trance, if you will, one of my teachers referred to it as the iago trance. It's this experience that we have when we're sleeping, not physically sleeping, but when we're asleep, like we're not aware, we're not connected, we're not plugged into life. It becomes very dull and very boring, and we may just kind of float our way through day after day after day, and maybe we don't really notice or recognize or realize how potentially unfulfilled we are, or how blah our lives may be, or how complacent we are, or the lackluster of our relationships. And those types of things, I mean, if that's what you want in your life, that's totally cool. I have nothing against that. More power to you. But I would venture to guess that most people that are either listening to this or that have any other desire in life other than those things are wanting more zest for life. They're wanting rich and full and fulfilling relationships and careers, and to feel purposeful, to feel on purpose, to feel connected to yourself, to feel at home with yourself. I mean, the whole point of this podcast is to help the lost and lonely souls find home. What better way to do that than to know thyself? right? Knowing thyself is so potent and so powerful. I can't even say enough about it. It's been one of my biggest passions in my life and on my journey, that taking all of the tests and learning about myself from getting feedback from other people and doing lots of personal development courses and all those different things, it all taught me so much about how I was when I was little and what's changed and what hasn't, and what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are. That's really what understanding yourself means. It's uncovering what are your motives, your motivations, what are the personality traits that make up you as this unique, individual, amazing, divine spark of life. It's getting used to your strengths and really learning what your weaknesses are, and knowing your areas of competency and what you're really skilled at, what you're good at, and what you have to improve upon. Those areas that maybe you are less developed in or that you haven't spent a lot of time working on. I'll say for me, like in a very broad overview, some of my weaknesses were a lot of like emotional volatility and moodiness, and a lot of guilt and self-criticism, perfectionism, like the list goes on and on. Trust me, I've had a lot of weaknesses and I still continue to work on them. But there's power in knowing that. I also know that a lot of my strengths now from the journey I've been on to understand myself. I know that I love helping people. I know that I'm skilled at that. I don't just feel drawn to it. I actually have competency for it. I'm very empathic and I'm sensitive, and I can tune into people's really minor and distinct quirks and traits about them. I ask questions. I'm a good balance of emotion and logic. Like there's just as many positives to who I am as there are areas of improvement. And that's really given me power. And that's what I want to convey to you today, is that you going down this process, no matter where you're at in the journey, no matter if you are someone who knows yourself the very, very best and you're like, I'm at the top of my game, I know everything about myself, I've done all the tests and all the personal developments and all the conferences and that's amazing. I really commend you for that, and keep going. There's never an end. There's always more. If you're on the other end of the spectrum where you're like, this is all really new to me, I don't know that I've ever considered this before or have heard about the importance and the benefits of knowing myself, like this is so interesting, welcome. This is going to be really fun for you to dabble in. And starting that journey is literally the cliche, a journey of 1,000 steps, right? There's obviously more than that, but it's very, very fulfilling. It's very fun. Okay, so why is understanding yourself so important to having a better life? That's a great question. I start with the client that I see. If I'm seeing a new client, I am gauging how much they know about themselves. Because if we're doing healing work, if we're doing coaching work, if we're wanting to change something in their life, if we're wanting to improve something in their life, or eliminate something that they're experiencing they don't like, or add in something that they'd like to have, I need to have a gauge of how much they know themselves. The purpose of that is to be able to tell, how self-aware are you? Do you know why you do what you do? Do you know if you're emotion-based or logic-based? Are you introverted or extroverted? Do you like to be around people, or are you more of a recluse? Are you somebody who is a leader and a go-getter and has a lot of power? Or are you somebody who is more gentle and kind of sits back and likes to observe? Are you more peaceful, or are you more, relationship oriented? You get the picture. There's so many different avenues as to who a person is, and there's a lot of different ways to uncover all the layers. What's also really fun and sometimes challenging is that even if we can uncover core parts of you, everything that you've been through has shaped you into who you are. So just like a face has very core tenets, we have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, a chin, a forehead, and 2 ears. Not a whole lot of that is changing typically. We also have core tenets in our personalities and in our beingness, but yet there's no one face that's the same. Similarly, there's no one personality that's the same. Every single person is different, just like your fingerprint. Everyone has a different fingerprint personality, because even, like I said, if those core tenets are similar, all of the filters, all of the experiences, all of the trauma, all of the support, all of the love and the lack of love, everything that you've experienced in your life has shaped you completely different from other people, even though we do sometimes fit into buckets. That's going to be a really important component of today's conversation, is that I don't want this to go in a direction where you're being labeled, or you're being put in a box, or you're being lost, or your individuality is not being appreciated. I knew a friend who was so vehemently advocating for us to stop using labels to define ourselves, which I totally agree with, and think that sometimes labels are very limiting. And so as we talk about understanding yourself, and as we go into different like personality tests, the idea is not for you to assume that you fit into a label or a box, and that that's who you are and that's where you belong, and there's nothing else outside of that, and there's no other shades to you, there's no other, oddities or individual components to yourself. That's not the case. That's not what the purpose of this is. The purpose of understanding and knowing yourself through external means, aka feedback from personality tests or from other people, or from reflecting and journaling or meditating, it's really intended to just explore. So I want you to have an open mind about yourself. And depending on your personality, some of you may have more of an open mind than others, and that's totally cool too. That's something to learn and love and appreciate about yourself. What I love so much about this secret to a better life of knowing thyself is that I have actually never encountered, and I say never, which is an extreme statement, but I have never encountered somebody who has been worse off by knowing more about themselves. I want you to think about that. Like, let that settle in. There might be people out there, for sure, I won't deny that, but I personally have never encountered somebody who was worse off after knowing more about themselves. Even if the things that they learned about themselves were hard to hear, or they didn't want to admit it, or it was hard for them to swallow, or whatever the case, it still made them better. Whether it was short-term or long-term, it might have taken them a while. If it was unsatisfactory feedback or something that they didn't really want to integrate, it may have took them a while, but eventually it made them better. It made them happier. It made them more connected in relationship. It made them know what to work towards in life. That's another big part of this conversation today, is because this podcast as an entirety is really here to help the lost and lonely souls find their way back home to the light and the power within themselves. We have to know and understand ourselves in order to then feel more clarity and more purposeful and more drawn towards our passion and our excitement. And when we feel drawn towards our passion and our excitement and what we love, that starts the trajectory of our life in a totally different direction. If you're somebody who's maybe been stuck in a mismatched relationship or in a mismatched career, something that's not fully in alignment with who you are or maybe who you want to be, then knowing yourself is literally your ticket out of there. It is your ticket, your first step to start asking, is there something that is more in alignment with who I am and who I know myself to be, who I would like to continue to become, and what's in alignment with my passion, my purpose, and my excitement. Understanding yourself is important at the deepest personal level, at another higher like career, mission in life level. And most of our life is made up of relationships. So whether you like to admit it or not, whether you are the most recluse person that you know, or whether you're the most social person that you know, knowing yourself will improve your relationships with others, personally, professionally, and familially, right? In your family and your friends, in acquaintances, and in business. So knowing yourself and understanding yourself can help you improve that significantly. It can also help you manage conflict. If you are somebody with a personality that has higher conflict, or you tend toward higher conflict, that would be important to know about yourself. Or if you're somebody who doesn't know how to manage conflict, or that you run away from conflict, or you don't like having anybody address you with harsh tones or with direct communication, that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. That might just be a part of your personality. And it could be a part that we could look into improving for you, so that you could handle conflict better, or so that you are not shutting down or running away anytime there's a problem, or anytime something isn't going your way, or anything like that. This process is going to help you mature. And again, wrapping back around to that same message, helping you become more of who you are, which at the end of the day, you can argue with me if you want, but in my experience, I've learned that that really is like one of the deepest levels of motivation for our psychology, for our spirituality, our souls, and our minds and our hearts. We want to become more of who we are. It's also important to understand yourself to help you have a better life, to give you more compassion and understanding for yours and others' weaknesses. Again, kind of going back to that conflict in certain ways. You can use your strength to your advantage. It can give you a roadmap for growth and evolution. Again, if you're stuck in certain situations, in a relationship or a career path, or any other way that you might be stuck, maybe like financially, and you just haven't been connected to yourself, and your external reality is reflecting that to you, that you've been either avoiding or denying or rejecting. Maybe even you are somebody who has an addiction and wanting to improve your life and get better. Knowing yourself is going to be important for that. Like, I know myself and the fact that I naturally have a more addictive personality. So I safeguard myself, and I have extra parts of my life that I'm disciplined in, and I know not to expose myself to certain things that could trigger my addictive personality. Like, I'm very disciplined with food. I am very disciplined with substances. Like, I am not a part of that world at all. I've never even been in it. I've never tried it. I've never really wanted to. Again, not saying it's necessarily right or wrong, but I know myself that way, so I know what to do to support myself and to keep myself healthy and happy. It can also help you become this higher and better version of yourself. Knowledge really is power, and even though we might look at knowledge from a religious perspective as being like evil, right? If we look at Genesis in the Bible, and it was the serpent who gave Adam and Eve knowledge of their own consciousness, which then they felt shame around. I have a whole podcast about that because that's an interesting way, in my opinion, to interpret human consciousness. But besides that fact, in my opinion, I do believe that knowledge can empower us, and gaining more wisdom is helpful for us. If we stay shrouded in unknowingness and in apathy, or in like ignorance is bliss type of mentalities, yes, that can be true to some extent. But I tell you what, there is going to be somewhere where you're going to give. Like, there's going to be a lack of fulfillment, or a lack of zest and excitement and fulfillment in many different ways, right? Okay, so what specifically can improve if you know yourself? That's easy to answer. We've already been talking about that. Relationships, how you feel about the work that you're doing in the world. Do you feel like in your personality, do you know yourself as somebody who wants to contribute to the larger picture? Do you like being on a team? Do you like working individually? Is your, genius, your working genius, is it to, come up with ideas? Is it to ask questions? Is it to integrate ideas together? Is it to finish projects? Like, what is it that you are so skilled at, and how can you use that to benefit you, to make you more money, to help you have a more happy, fulfilling, loving, juicy, passionate relationship, to have peaceful and fun and enjoyable connections and relationships with family, to have great communication? Like, all of these things or benefits for you by knowing yourself. It's like the most simple and easy recipe that I could ever come up with. I'm going to move into a stage of this episode where I'm going to talk about a lot of different types of personality tests and my experiences with them, because I've taken all of them. And there are plenty others that exist in the world. I don't know all of them. So if you know of ones that I don't have listed here, please, by all means, share those with people that you know, and even share them with me. I'd love to know about them. I'm always looking for more. Again, like I said earlier, when I work with a client, I gauge how much they understand themselves and know themselves. If they don't, I guide them to these tests, and I learn more about them in a short amount of time, and they learn more about themselves, and it all works. It's hunky-dory. And we can use that information then to help them with their goals, to remove what they want to remove and to add in what they want to add in to their life. My caveat with talking about these personality tests is that, like I mentioned earlier, it is not a box that tells you who you are and where you fit, and that is the truth, and that is the only thing that matters or that you should pay attention to. These are simply reflections for you to then be able to feel into and adjust, like, does this feel like me or does it not? Do I resonate with this or do I not? You do not have to resonate with everything that you learn. You don't have to take it as truth. You don't have to do anything with it if you don't want. It's merely for you to see a reflection in the mirror, okay? So again, caveat, this is not telling you who you are. It's showing you a reflection of potential sides of you and filters of you. Cool? All right, we're going to start with something that I haven't caveated yet, which I'm going to, because you know I'm the caveat queen. Some of you may or may not agree with some of these things, which is also okay. If you are in the more like religious doctrines and think that some of the things I'm about to say are like witchcraft or evil or not good, I totally appreciate and respect that. That's okay. Like I said, you don't have to like these things. You don't have to listen to these things, and you don't have to do these things. But they have been helpful for me. They have been helpful for lots of other people. So depending on how your personality is, if you're somebody who feels like you're right and you know the way, cool, totally appreciate that. But it has been helpful for other people. So if you can, just relax and lean into the fact that it's been helpful in a lot of ways. If you can't lean into that, then I suggest that you listen to my podcast. That helps you out of the black and white thinking of something is either good or bad. The name of that podcast has something to do with evil, probably, because I was talking about evil and being stuck in those black or white perspectives. I digress. If you are not wanting to explore any of these things, please, no, you do not have to. If they are offensive to you, please forgive me. If you think that it is the devil's work, please forgive me. And I don't think that it is. That's why I'm sharing it. Caveat finished. The first ones I'm going to start with is your astrology chart and your numerology. If you've never heard of those before, astrology is a way to see a reflection of yourself based on the planetary and star system alignment when you were born and where you were born on the planet. Again, some people think that's hocus pocus and that it doesn't have any bearing on anybody's personality. That's okay. I have found that for me, it's been really helpful as a tool for reflection, and it's been really helpful for other people. So astrology will tell you your sun sign, moon sign, rising sign, and it will tell you where every one of your planets is in each of the houses. Now, I'm not going to go full on into an astrology lesson here. I would like to later on down the road with potentially an astrologist. I am not an astrologist, but I do like to study astrology. And your sun sign will tell you a lot about like your general personality, just who you are, what you like, the way that you are. It'll kind of help give you some reflections in a general sense. Your moon sign is intended to help you understand more of how you are emotionally and kind of behind closed doors. Your rising sign is to help show you like how you express yourself out in the world, how you're showing yourself, or how other people perceive you. And that can be very interesting too. Sometimes maybe there's a misalignment or a mismatch, and that's okay. What you know to be true about yourself and what feedback you get in reality is more important, in my opinion, than what you're told in these different doctrines. So again, taking them with a grain of salt, but also letting you use them as a helpful tool for reflection. The astrology chart tells you so much information. It is an entire discipline all on its own. I deeply, deeply respect astrologists. They know so much and they've studied very intensely. And it's really an impressive skill to be able to interpret somebody's chart and tell them about themselves. I have tried to become like a numerologist, actually, and I'll talk about that in a second. And it's really hard. I wouldn't say that that's like my competency or my skill set, but there are some people who have that as their skill set, and it is amazing. Getting your chart read by somebody who's skilled at it, or your numerology read, it's really, really cool. So if you've never done it before, I would highly suggest it. It can be very, very informative. Every house on your chart will tell you a different part of your life and your personality, like your relationships, your wealth or your abundance, your family life, so on and so forth. There's 12 houses, if I'm not mistaken, which is appropriate given 12 is such a spiritual number. And if you hear people talk about it, they're most likely probably talking about their sun sign, like I'm a Leo or I'm an Aries, I'm a Capricorn, Scorpio, so on and so forth. I am, maybe unsurprisingly, or actually sometimes this does surprise people about me, I am a Leo sun, a Leo rising, and a Taurus moon. Very surprising to some people. A lot of people think I'm a Cancer, which is appropriate, I guess. But in this context, maybe you would think of me that I'm a double Leo. But there's a lot of fire and power energy there. And I do love to perform or to be seen, even though I've kept myself very hidden from the world for a very long time. It's funny because, or not funny, but it's very cool because each trait has different characterizations. And I do admit that some people will broadly generalize people, like, oh, if he's a Virgo, then he's like super logical and really in his head, or oh, she's a Scorpio, like she's very mysterious and sexual and has, really deep emotional energy. Every sign corresponds to a different element. So like a Scorpio would be water, Leo is fire, Virgo is earth. I believe, is it Capricorn? No, Aquarius is air. And each one of them has a different element assigned to it. So again, it's very complex. It's an amazing world to go into if you haven't yet. Numerology is very similar. I have actually been trained formally in numerology, astrology, and the tarot. I was so fascinated by numerology because it's the use of numbers to decode yourself. And when I discovered that, I was like, what? That is so cool. Because when you think about it, everything in this world is numbers. It's like the Matrix, legit. And everything is based off of numbers. Every letter of the alphabet has a number assigned to it. Every number, like a phone number, when you're calling somebody, there's a certain number that you use. Every leaf on every tree, there's a Fibonacci sequence that will determine its patterning. Like everything on this planet and in this reality has numbers assigned to it. Even a computer, it's coded with ones and zeros. Any of you who are software engineers or coders, everything is numbers. So it's really wild when you really boil it down and think about it, that numbers are significant. Numerology is really the study of numbers to be able to have insight into who and how you are. So every number has a significant vibration behind it, right? Like if you were to tune into 96.1 on the radio station, that number is a specific radio station. It plays a specific type of music. And same with a guitar. Like every fret is a number, every string is a number, every chord has a number assigned to it, and a piano, right? Everything has numbers. So it's all significant. What numerology does is it assigns a number to every letter of your name. It calculates the numbers in your full birth name, and it calculates the numbers of your birthday. In some forms, it can calculate where you're born, but that's more when you overlay astrology, because astrology has more to do with the location and the timing of your birth. Numerology, at least the way I've been trained, has more to do with just your name and your birth date. You can find out your life path, what you're meant to do in the world in this lifetime. It can give you your heart's desire, like what you really crave and desire in life. It can give you your soul's calling, stuff about who you've maybe been before, if that's in your belief system, like potential past lives. And it can help you see into the future. Again, if some of you think that that's, bad or wrong, that's okay. But if you are looking for some support, like you are in a space of a lot of uncertainty, like you don't know if you should leave a job or not, like if that's the wrong move, or you've been considering potentially getting a divorce or leaving your spouse or partner and you don't know if that's the right thing to do, or maybe you're considering getting married or starting a relationship, numerology can help you pinpoint where you're at in your year, month, week, day energy, in accordance with your vibrational energy as a number person, like your life path. And you can calculate, like the way, again, I was trained by a woman in Southern California. She was amazing. She was like the North County Oracle is what some people called her. But she could plot out the seasons of years of your life and really tell you like what were the dominant energies of that time. Was it a time of abundance? Was it a time of like going inside and doing a lot of healing? Was it a time of celebration? Was it a time of like spiritual enlightenment and growth? All sorts of things. Like it is so fun and so cool. I know a couple of different numerologists that I can connect you with in some way. I also can have them as resources on my website, findinghomehealing.com, for you, and, have links and different places for you to go to learn more about all these different things. So numerology and astrology, very, very cool. The tarot is also another esoteric way to potentially learn about yourself, if that's acceptable to you in your belief system. If not, again, cool, just discard. The tarot is necessary to either have somebody who's skilled to give you a reading, or if you like to, pull angel cards or use those as tools for reflection to help you gain insight into something that you already know. The way that I believe, and this is just my personal opinion, the way that I believe like tarot and angel cards work is that we already have all of the knowledge and wisdom inside of us due to our connection to the source, to the creator of all, to God. And what those cards are really doing is helping us see that reflection in front of us so that we have more validation to be able to know it and feel it and recognize it. So it's not necessarily telling us something that we don't already know. It's just helping us be able to accept and integrate the truth that we do already know. So I think that's the way that I personally have been able to have all these different things, because I'll tell you what, like in my house, I have crosses and I have holy water, and I consider myself, in alignment with a lot of the Christian doctrine, and I've been baptized and all of that. But I've been trained in the tarot and numerology and astrology, and I have tarot cards, and sometimes I might pull cards, and it's like I have those dispersed all throughout my house. And so people come in and they see singing bowls and sound bowls and the, what is that? The Om sign that's like carved out of wood. But then I also have a cross next to it. And again, like I have plenty of podcasts about how I integrate the fact that I can be in all of these worlds at the same time and love and respect each of them. But that's my way of being able to use tarot cards as a way to reflect information that I already know at an unconscious level and with my connection with my higher power. Okay, moving on to a little bit less probably controversial ways to understand yourself, which maybe I should have put those at the end, but whatever. There are a lot of different personality tests that you can just buy online, like right now, and go take them. One of them is called Color Code. I was actually just introduced to this morning, and I was preparing, recording a podcast, and I was told to do Color Code, and I was like, oh, I have so much to do, but I decided to go for it, and it ended up being really, really cool. It's very insightful and gives you a lot of data about your motives, like your core motives in your personality, and how to get along with other people who might be like you or unlike you. It gives you a pie chart of how you are spread throughout 4 different colors. And even though the colors, there's only 4 of them, it doesn't mean that you are only in 4 buckets, because there's percentages of like how much you are this way and how much you're other ways. And it's very intricate and complex, and I personally really appreciated it. So if you want to check that out, I believe it's like colorcode.com. You just Google it, look it up. It was really fun. I believe it's like $40. You can do a free version, which I did. And I was like, okay, I have to know the rest. So that was really interesting. The Jordan Peterson Understand Yourself assessment is another one that I really, really highly suggest. It is chock full of really helpful information around how you fit into the big 5 personality traits, which are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So how you operate as a human and how agreeable you are, or how aware you are of your surroundings, how organized you may or may not be, how prone you are to conflict or disagreeing with somebody, or if you are avoidant of conflict and you just want to keep the peace, like you're a people pleaser or a peacemaker. People that are very high in agreeableness are typically like that. If you're high in openness, or if you're not so high in openness, kind of like that open-minded experience that we were talking about in the beginning. These can be incredibly insightful to how you are at a deep, deep level and how you see the world. This test, the Understand Myself test, also offers a couples report. So you and a spouse or partner or business partner or family member can take the couples assessment, and it will combine both of your individuals assessment into one, which is super cool, and give you insight into how you guys are in relationship together, which I do with some of my clients that I see both partners, and it's so cool. I have done it before. It's really powerful and informative, and like I said earlier, can really help with relationships. Okay, another one that you've probably heard of is the Myers-Briggs. I know a lot of people that are like obsessed with Myers-Briggs, and I know a lot of people who hate it. So take it as a grain of salt. You might fall into either one of those camps or neither. Maybe you feel neutral about it. The Myers-Briggs is, if you've heard of it, it's the ones that have the 4 letters, like INTJ, ENFP, those types of things. I believe I took this like long time ago, but I believe I am an ENFP. So it's similar to some of the big 5 personalities, but I and E is for introvert, extrovert. T and F is for thinking and feeling. S and N is for sensing and intuiting. And then J and P are for judging and perceiving. So it's funny because in my NLP training, we did a Myers-Briggs type spin-off test, and my teacher would always make a joke that the perceivers, the P at the end, like ENFP, that they are always late, or they're the last to take action, or that they're notoriously the ones that are just not necessarily behind, but that are not like totally organized and just on things right away. And so he would make a joke every time everyone was coming back to their chairs. He was like, all right, we got to, have the last 5 seconds for the perceivers to finally get in their chair. Anyway, it's not that funny now that I recount it, but it was really funny at the time. And like the judgers are very like type A. They do things very quickly. They're on task. Like they want to get things done right away. It's really funny how different people are. That's a really interesting one to look into too. If you find that you're more of like the intuitive kind who's more sensitive and more feeling versus like the logical thinking mind, that's really great and helpful information to know. I think that the one that I mentioned before, color code, does a really great way of helping shape the Myers-Briggs type stuff into something that's very usable to help with relationships. So if you're looking for more information on how to be cohesive with lots of different people, like in a workplace or in a relationship or a family unit, color code might be really helpful for you. But Myers-Briggs is just helpful in general to help you know, like, are you an introvert or an extrovert, or more introverted or more extroverted? And keep in mind, that doesn't mean that one is more social and one is more shy. Introversion and extroversion just means that introverts get energy when they're alone, like they can charge up when they're by themselves, and extroverts get energy from other people, like they are more social, and when they go to a party they're filled up instead of drained. An introvert is drained when they go to a party. If you're somebody like that, whom I'm kind of in the middle. When I took the test, I was a little bit more extroverted, but I think I've become slightly more introverted, but still very in the middle. It's so much easier for me now to recognize that, oh, it's okay that I'm exhausted when I've had a social gathering, or I've been at a party, or I've been at dinner with a bunch of people around and it's loud and all the things, because I'm more introverted. I charge up when I'm alone or with one person out in the wilderness in a hammock or, somewhere in nature where it's peaceful and quiet, or if I'm at home and I can meditate or just do my dishes or float around, right? Like I get charged up that way. And other people, like my sister, she gets charged up by socializing and being around other people. We are different in that way. So if you're like that, it's so helpful to know and understand that about yourself. And it also feels very validating. Like if I didn't know anything about myself, I would constantly compare myself to my sister and be like, oh, well, she's so excited and energetic and filled up around other people, and I'm not, and I feel drained. That must mean something's wrong with me. Like that is something that I used to think about myself, that if I'm not like my sister, something's wrong with me. And that's such a sad way to live, because I'm a different person than she is. And a lot of siblings have this dynamic, unfortunately, where they don't feel as good as, or they're judged against their siblings. And it's like, that's not fair, because everybody's different. So the more that you understand and know yourself, the more you can love yourself. And that's really cool. Okay, we've got a couple more, quite a few more to get through here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more to get through. The next one is human design. I am not a human design expert. I don't know a ton about human design, but I love it and I've done it. And it's, again, kind of like astrology. It is like a whole thing that is its own world. People will spend years and years and years studying human design. So if you want to find an expert in human design that can do your whole thing, that would be super fun. I personally have not done that yet, but if any of you are human design experts, please get in touch with me, because I would love to try that, at least at this time that I'm recording this podcast. From what I understand about the human design, and again, I'm not an expert, so I would have to outsource that information to somebody. There are different types that you can be. You can be a manifestor, generator, projector, or reflector. And I will not pretend to know a lot about those things, because I personally have not become a human design expert. But if you are interested in that, or know a little bit about it, or have heard it a couple of times, take this as your sign that it might be really fun for you to go into that and learn more about who you are. I've taken a test to type me, and I believe that I'm a manifestor, which again, I don't know exactly all of the intricacies of the ins and outs of that, but it is really helpful for many, many people. Even clients that I've had that have gone down that path are like, it was so helpful for me. I know this about myself, and they can bring that into sessions with me. And even though I might not know about that test specifically, they know more about themselves, which is super, super awesome. So wanting to throw that out there. The next one is the Enneagram. Enneagram is another one that people can become really specialized in. I chose to go more into like astrology, numerology, tarot, and all of that. I don't know as much about the Enneagram, but again, I have done it and I've typed myself. It's a sphere or like a circle, and you get put into a different number, and you can have wings on that number. And then in the circle, there's other numbers that you are across from that you can either be compatible with or that you need to develop more of those traits or skills from. So again, it's another really, really helpful way to understand yourself, to get new perspectives of who you are. And if you're anything like me, taking all these tests and just learning more about yourself is so fun and exciting. If that's not fun and exciting for you, then that's okay. But if you're somebody who likes learning that, the Enneagram is another really, really great and fun one. The next one is something that I've mentioned before in podcasts. It's actually the HSP quiz, the highly sensitive person quiz. You can find this just Googling highly sensitive person quiz, and it will let you know where you fall on the spectrum of high to low sensitivity. When I took it, I was like on the highest end of the spectrum. I think that I had, if it's maybe like 24 questions, I had like 22 or 23 questions or points. I think it was points. It was like, you're a highly sensitive person if you have 14 or more points or whatever, just based off the quiz. And I had almost the highest amount of points you could have. So it helped me learn that like, I'm a very highly sensitive person. I am an empath person. So that can be really helpful for you if you haven't done that yet and you might suspect that you're a highly sensitive person. Please take that, find that information out. If you don't know what a highly sensitive person is, navigate to my podcast that is about highly sensitive people. You'll learn all about it there, and take the quiz. There is also a course on my website, findinghomehealing.com/course, where you can learn and empower yourself by as an HSP, you can have more empowerment and learn more about being an HSP through that course. So that's really awesome. The last two are really intended to help you more specifically with career and life path and how you make money. So the first one in those categories is the working genius. Working genius helps if you are, within a team, or you're a leader of a team, or maybe you're in a corporate world and want to know like how to use your skills best, or if you're interviewing for jobs, like you can take some of these tests and be able to speak really eloquently about what you're skilled at. Working Genius breaks down the start to finish of like a project and helps you understand where you're best and where you fit in throughout each one of those tasks. So it starts with wonder and goes to invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. And what that really means is wonder is like you have a natural gift of being able to ponder the possibilities of greater potential and the opportunity in a given situation. So this is like, think about it like idea generation. Not idea generation. Wonder is like kind of being like a starter and like asking questions. I get made fun of sometimes because I am so high in wonder. I ask questions all the time. Like, I wonder how that tree has its leaves the way that it does. Or I wonder, I can't even think of examples right now, but it's something that I do all the time. I wonder about things constantly. The next one is invention. It's this natural gift of creating original and novel ideas and solutions. The next one is discernment. It's a natural gift of intuitively and instinctively evaluating ideas and situations. Galvanizing is the gift of rallying, inspiring, and organizing others to take action. Enablement is a gift of providing encouragement and assistance for an idea or project. And tenacity is really pushing projects or tasks to completion to achieve results. So this is really helpful, actually sometimes in relationship too, because if you are in a relationship where you're a quick start like me and you like to get projects going, but you're not very good at finishing things like me, you can take this test and be able to know like, oh, okay, I really need to improve on my tenacity and being able to finish projects and bring them to completion. That's something that I personally have as like one of my biggest focuses this year of my life is to get better at tenacity and finish things. I also work with some people that they've taken this, and when they find out that they're really skilled at galvanizing, which is like inspiring and organizing others to take action, they really lean into that and own that truth and become more inspiring to people, and it's very fulfilling for them. This is a really good one if you're looking for like how you can fit into a team or what you're skilled at from a project perspective, kind of start to finish. The final one that I'm going to be talking about today is wealth dynamics. I took this one a couple years ago, and it was really difficult for me to integrate the feedback that I got from it, because this test is really going to tell you what you need to do in order to be the most wealthy in your life. Meaning that it will take your natural skill sets that it finds out for you and kind of help you fit into a category of what you need to do to be able to make enough, or not make enough, but make more than enough money to have the abundance and the wealth that you've dreamed of by just using your natural skill set and what you're born to do. My results of that test was that my wealth dynamics is the star, meaning that I can make the most money and wealth, and I can generate wealth very easily if I am the star, if I am putting myself out there and I'm amplifying my voice and I'm not necessarily performing, but I am shining brightly for all to see. And me doing this podcast was one of the ways that I was stepping into my star profile and to own the fact that some of my natural gifts and talents and abilities are to be seen and to be out in the world. I remember specifically when I took this test that the example of the person who the star was like Oprah Winfrey. And I was like, whoa, I cannot be at that level. I don't necessarily want fame. I don't really want a lot of people to know who I am, but I do want to help the people that I'm here to help. So that test specifically really helped me step into new iterations and new levels of my career and my life purpose and what I'm really meant to do here on this planet. So I'd really, really suggest that one for you as well if you're wanting to have a different path for your career, or find out if you're in the right career, if you're really like matched well with what you're doing, or if there's some improvement that can be had there. Woo! Okay. This has been really, really fun. I know this has been very informative and a lot of information. I haven't maybe had as many stories or anecdotal type of tangents like I usually do, but I felt like it was necessary to get through a lot of this content and really share at a deep level these things that I've had that have really helped me know myself. And I'm really hoping that this can help you on your path toward knowing yourself and understanding yourself so that you can have really happy and connected relationships that are fulfilling and that are easy and harmonious, to feel really fulfilled in your career, on your life purpose, with your passion, following your excitement, and really owning who you are and becoming more of who you are, feeling connected to yourself and to your passion and purpose. Last little thing I'll say here before we wrap up is that I had reached out to one of my most favorite clients, and she had mentioned to me that something I really helped her with during our process of working together was to help her find her purpose on this planet. And that felt so beautiful for me to hear, because that's what I'm here to do. It was like the completion of this cycle of like, oh, like this person came to me and I helped her and now she's had this outcome, this result. And we did a lot of this, of helping her get more familiar with knowing herself and understanding herself. And she's so on path and she's living her best life and just doing amazing. And I'm so happy and so proud of her. And I really wish and hope that for you as well. So I will leave you with that. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the secret of knowing thyself to help you live a better life. We'll see you in the next one.